democracy. Tonight's learning about the candidates and how they want to represent us in Wasco County and beyond. And we are very pleased to have all this turnout tonight. These are people who mean what they say and say what they mean. We know that the political environment of late has been pretty poisoned out there, and that ended when you walk through this door. This is all about information, not demonstration. And we ask that you treat everybody respectfully, and if you're not, you'll be asked to leave. This is a meeting for grown-ups. Thank you for that. So what we're going to do is we're going to call them up one race at a time. Each person will get 1 minute to introduce themselves, and the other person will introduce themselves, and then we'll ask them questions. We'll alternate how we ask it in order so that nobody is first every time. And that way sometimes people can respond to things that other people say. And we'll ask that you answer in a minute, please, because we have a lot of people and a lot of questions tonight. By the way, all the candidates have received all the questions in advance. They have been all laboriously put together by the staff of the chamber. We should thank all of the people who are making this evening possible, which includes Elisa and the crazy crew at the Dallas Area Chamber of Commerce, obviously for the Senior Center, for Mid-Columbia Senior Center, for giving us this fine space in this evening, Wasco County Farm Bureau, Columbia Gorge News, Dallas Area Chamber, of course, Meals on Wheels, and Great Scott Productions providing the sound. Thank you so much for that. And we will begin. And oh, by the way, I'm Roger Nichols, and for a lot of years I played around being DJ on the radio and in newspapers and stuff. So I didn't duck fast enough when Lisa came arm twisting, so here I am tonight. Bear with me if you will, please. So we're going to start with Senate District 29 and Todd Nash. That's right, hold the applause, hold your seats, it's okay. And I just want to point out that it doesn't indicate anything whether you see it on the right or the left. It's, you know, it's not indicative necessarily. So go ahead and introduce yourself, sir.
Yeah, thank you for having me here tonight. Last time I was here was last spring, and there was more of us here. I did win the primary in a four-way race and was privileged to get 53% of the vote and won this county fairly handily, and I really appreciate the support that was given to me here. Todd Nash, I'm from Wallowa County, where I currently serve as chair of the Board of Commissioners there. And it's about 4 hours east of here, and I know most of you know where that's at, but I've been cattlemen's president 2 prior years, and was asked to step into this race. Vetted that with my wife and family and friends and community leaders, and got a lot of encouragement to run in this race. I look forward to serving you all in the capacity of senator, and it'll certainly be a challenge going into Salem. I hope we're not in the super minority again as a Republican. I will say that in the primary, there wasn't a Democrat opponent that ran there. There were Democrats that wrote my name in, and so I received both the Democrat and the Republican nomination, and was happy to receive both of those. So.
Okay, that's a great intro. So the questions we're asking are, again, these are all devised. They've all had a chance to look at it, so we're expecting no pressure, superb answers here tonight. We'll start with something that I'm sure is close to all of our hearts, and that's rural economic development. And obviously, Senate District 29 covers a lot of very rural counties. And what strategies are you going to advocate to promote economic growth?
Well, thank you. You know, it does cover a lot of rural country. This city of the Dalles is just outside of the district. So the southern portion of Wasco County, and then you go into the north part of Jefferson, you take in Wheeler County, and those stretches go on into Sherman and Gillum. Very rural district that I'll be representing. Rural America is not very healthy right now, and a lot of the problem lies within the ag commodity. And those commodities, whether it be cherries, whether it be potatoes, whether it be wheat, the pressures of everything that has been inflation has put compression upon those commodities. And all of those input costs have gone up, but the commodity prices themselves have stayed static, and in a lot of cases gone down even. We see that with timber. And we need to be able to make ourselves healthier again by cutting the cost as much as we can within the state legislature, making sure that we don't impose anything more on those agricultural products that are already seeing all that compression from inflation. The housing issue that is being faced right now with farm worker housing that is going to heavily impact this county. The last of the comment period ends on Friday on that. I would encourage every one of you to weigh in on that. I was able to take a tour of some of the cherry orchards here just prior to harvest and workers coming in. Those were pretty nice houses compared to what I used to stay at in the woods when I was logging, and it's far better than what's being provided on some of the streets in Salem and Portland.
Thank you for that. You mentioned agriculture. Obviously, it's a significant part of the economy in the district. So do you have specific policies you'd like to propose to help farmers and ranchers address challenges like water management, labor shortages, and, of course, rising operational costs?
Yeah, well, beyond that, the cat tax that put the pressure on being able to tax a product with gross revenues. And so you can have a farm out here that's making over $1 million a year, which there's a lot of them that do that, and you're getting taxed on that gross revenue. That's just absurd. And so I do have a bill that I've proposed to exempt all of agriculture from that, and that's certainly one of them. The list goes on and on all the pressures that surround Oregon and what we've done here, but we can certainly attack that one as being bad policy that we have on the books that we can reel back.
Okay, great. Wildfire prevention. Everybody knows it's been worse and worse every year. And what initiatives would you support to enhance land management and keep it down?
Yeah, there's a few things that we can do. The CRP lands, the Conservation Reserve Program that's been in effect since the early 80s, we see miles and miles of this ungrazed, unfarmed area that is between wheat fields, and there's no reason that we can't graze that. It would be an economic value to those guys that are grazing it. It would also reduce the fuel breaks in this country, and it would enhance wildlife refuges for ungulates, especially want to go and graze back on that regrowth. I think that's one of the issues that we could do in these open spaces. When we get into the timber, we can no longer as a state say this is a federal issue, this is a state issue. Our federal forest, 52% of Oregon is in federal management, and we have to start managing our federal forest in a capacity that not only enhances what is healthy forest, but it decreases fire hazards and it increases the amount of revenues that would come back to these rural economies.
All right. I'm going to give you one more and then one bonus question here. So we'll ask about water resource sustainability. That's been a problem for a lot of folks in Eastern Oregon.
It is, and Water Resources Department, they have kind of a detachment of what is reality, and they have put in groundwater rules that is a one-size-fits-all, and it isn't the case in Oregon. We are wildly diverse in the amount of available groundwater we have. I would guess in this area where you're so close to the Columbia, you have areas that have tremendous recharge values. In other areas, there's probably some that don't have very much at all. Having knowledge of those resources, what's rechargeable, what's not, having some place-based planning with communities, deciding how they're best going to manage on that space, I think is the best thing that we can do, rather than having a state agency, one blanket, one size fits all.
Okay, and a final question. I'm going to let you answer one that you think you wish that I had asked you. So you get a wide open shot on this one. 1 minute.
Wow. Wish that I had been asked. You know, in this campaign, I can't remember a question that I wish I had been asked, but
Go ahead and use a
I
closing
guess, you
statement
know,
then. Yeah.
if there was a question, you know, why would you run for this office? And so I would maybe go with that. None of it makes sense. It doesn't make financial sense. I'm taking about a $17,000 a year pay cut from the commissioner job I have right now. It doesn't make healthy decisions for my family. You know, I'm 7 hours away from Salem, where I live. It's time spent away from my grandkids, it's time spent away from my wife, and it's time spent away from the lifestyle that I love there in Wallowa County. But there is a time when each of us are asked to step up to a position of leadership where we can have the capacity to make a difference, where it's just our time to do that thing. And so years back, when Greg Barretto was running for office and did serve for 6 years, he got to be a good friend of mine, and he asked me to run when he stepped down. And I said, I can't do it now, Greg. I'll think about it. And I asked my wife, and we just couldn't do it at the time. But he also, when I went back to him, I said, Greg, I just can't do it right now. And he said, there's going to come a time when you can, Todd, and you run then. And so I kept that in the back of my mind, and this is the first time in my life when it does work. Senator Hansel stepped down, and a man that I greatly admire. I won't take his place. He set the bar very high as far as ethical leadership, the template he set in balancing life with his wife, family, what he did there in his community. I won't be able to replicate that, but I'm glad to serve at this time, and I look forward to serving you all.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that. All right. Coming up next is Oregon House District 52, and I hope I'm pronouncing this name right. So give me a hint on here. It's Nick Walden Poublon?
Looking at the wrong guy, but you're Poublon.
Poublon.
There you go.
Okay. He's a much nicer guy, probably. You never know. Thank you. And Jeff Helfrich. All right. And again, when we start this, we'll do this alternate who gets to answer first. Each again, try to keep to 1 minute, and I will throw things at you if it gets beyond. So let's begin and each introduce yourself, starting with Jeff Helfrich.
Hi, my name is Jeff Helfrich. I'm the current House Republican leader for the Oregon House of Representatives and also State Representative for House District 52. The district has changed since the last time I was in office. It goes from the Columbia, it goes from the Dalles Dam, the Columbia River, to the Sandy River, cuts into Gresham, and then it cuts us the backside of Gresham on into around Sandy, the backside of all of Clackamas County, or the backside of Clackamas County, Mount Hood and the villages. And then it takes all of Hood River County and it cuts through Government Flats, backside of Mosier to Government Flats, and then into the city of the Dalles. And so I think one of the things for me when I ran for office the first time we'll back up. My wife and I met and we moved to Cascade Locks. My wife's a hometown girl here from the Dalles, so that's my connection to the Dalles. Shauna Hazel, she was a phenomenal athlete here in the Dalles, and so that's the connection that I have here in the community. It's the ties that we have, and sort of we do a lot of stuff here. Moved to Cascade Locks and ended up becoming on the city, so on the budget committee, then planning commissioner, and then on to city council. I didn't know those positions were going to prepare me for the state representative spot, but what did prepare me for that was being a police officer in the city of Portland pragmatic approach, knock on your door, there's a problem, how do we fix it, then move on. And so I've taken that type of leadership and problem-solving ability into the House, and had some really good accomplishments as state representative from 17 to 19, and then since I became state representative in 2023 in the session that we had now.
We've got to cut you off there. That's a bit plus.
Oh, come on. Give me a microphone, I'll talk all day.
Well, this is endemic for politicians.
My name is Nick Walden Kublon, and I am a lifelong Oregonian who has grown up in small towns throughout Oregon my entire life. I grew up on a dairy farm with my family. My grandparents lived next door, and I began milking cows probably before it was legal. I put myself through college twice, first at the University of Oregon, then later at Portland State University. And I get asked a lot about what activated me, what got me here, what put me in this seat. And something happened in my first week of grad school, and I was diagnosed with a brain tumor at the base of my brain. And everything kind of flipped upside down. And I went to the university that I was going to at Portland State University, and I told them I wasn't going to be able to survive as a student with this health insurance plan that they had purchased. It was a really bad insurance plan. And they said, put together an advisory board. So I found 7 ragtag students who had different healthcare problems, and we got together, and within 3 months we fired United Health Insurance and renegotiated health insurance for 28,000 students ourselves for the first time in school history. And when it came time for me to leave, the university said, wait a minute, stay. And so I stayed for 10 more years as the student health advisor, making sure that students never had to be in a position that I was in, so that you didn't have to be an advocate and a patient and a student all at the same time. I am so thankful to be running in this district. The Wasco County Dems have been so incredibly kind to me. I live in Sandy, where my husband is a 6th grade school teacher. We have lived there for 15 years. And I served as a legislative aide to the last Democrat who held this office, Lori Kukler, who replaced Anna Williams when she stepped down before her term was over.
Okay, thank you very much. Nice job, both of you, on that. Okay, so we start up, and we'll start the other way with Nick first, with the first question. And because most of these are written by the Chamber of Commerce, most of the lead questions are about economy. I wonder why that is. Economic development and job growth. What specific policies would you advocate to promote economic growth in House District 52, particularly in rural areas?
Sure. I live very much in rural House District 52. So first, the thing we need to do is to expand broadband access. And improve transportation, connecting our communities to each other in ways that people can make sure that they can get around, and making it easier for businesses to grow. I would support agriculture and small businesses. I'll advocate for policies that help farmers and entrepreneurs thrive, from access to the capital and to reducing regulatory burdens. Workforce development is also really key here. I'll push for job training programs. Making sure that we have paths that go directly from our community colleges to jobs that represent folks here in the district. I think about healthcare workers and the trip that I took recently to Mount Hood Community College and had conversations with them about what one thing could they do to help our district. And one thing that they could really do to help our district is help with pipelines for healthcare workers to get them into our district, into the rural communities and into the healthcare facilities, so that we aren't traveling as much and are able to seek local care.
Thank you. All right. And you, sir? Same question.
Thank you. We need to increase housing affordability and roll back a lot of these expansive and expensive mandates on energy. That's the first one. And we have to keep Oregon competitive. We have to boost the economy, because if we don't, we're going to lose jobs and lose people out of state. And you're already seeing that right now. We have to stop the fight and the assault on agriculture. Agriculture is being assaulted right now. And I've been at the forefront of that when it comes to housing, or the emergency declaration I had from the governor at the state level. Those are things that are very important. The other part of that is investment in our infrastructure, not just with roads, but with water and everything else that goes along with what we need in our communities, because our rural communities get kind of ignored a little bit because there's a divide at the Cascades, and it's all about Salem and Portland. And the other part is we have to provide relief to our small businesses and large businesses on the corporate activities tax. That corporate activities tax is killing our small businesses, because inflation goes up, and if you make $1 million, then all of a sudden you're getting taxed on your gross receipts, not on your net, on your gross. And that's the only time I've ever seen that, especially in the ag industry, is where you, as the agriculture, buy everything at retail, but yet have to sell it wholesale. And we have to stop that assault on that.
Okay, great. Nice answers. All right, we'll keep it to you for the next one, which is one of our favorites, affordable housing. You've got all the answers for that. What would they be?
There you have it. Well, I was proud to usher in 2 bills in my session, probably the most expansive bills when it came to housing and affordability. The first bill is in 2023, the second bill is in 2024, which addressed production and getting infrastructure in there. You know, we have to cut the regulations that curtail development. That has to happen because the red tape that happens, and it takes 10 years to get a development going, not just in the district, but for the rest of the state, is important to do that. And we have to make sure we do those things. The other part of that is the ability to allow land to be used where it's not being used for anything else. And so that's probably one of the more important things. That can be, I think, a testy subject sometimes because we want to make sure we cover our exclusive farm use ground and not take those over, because you're seeing that with the semiconductors. So there's a balance there, but we have to have production along with input. When you have too much input, projects stop, and that's been a problem, I think, for a long time.
Excellent, thank you. Same question.
So affordable housing is a huge issue. When I'm knocking on doors every day, it's one of the issues that I hear about the most. I was at the grocery store the other day here in town, and someone told me that they were driving from Gresham to be able to work at the grocery store, and I think that doesn't work. Affordable housing in District 52, I would advocate for streamlining the permitting process, just as Representative Helfrich has talked about, offering incentives for developers to build affordable units. But we also need to invest in infrastructure that supports housing, like public transportation, so families can live where they work. On the issue of homelessness, I have worked in warming shelters in the district, helping folks get off the streets. We need a compassionate approach that focuses on permanent supportive housing paired with mental health and addiction services. I don't have to tell you, Oregon is ranked very low when it comes to providing mental health resources in the state, and that's something that we need to focus on. Housing is the foundation of a family, of a thriving community and of a family, and we need to make sure that we are incentivizing building and removing red tape.
Okay, spot on. We'll leave it with you for the
Okay.
next question, which will be, oh boy, healthcare access. And that is access to affordable and quality healthcare is a challenge for many Oregonians, especially in rural areas. What initiatives would you support to improve healthcare services in House District 52?
I'm someone with a background in healthcare policy, so I understand the challenges, especially that rural communities face in accessing affordable healthcare. We need to expand access to telehealth, allowing residents to be able to connect with their doctors from their homes and from their home communities. I think also we need to incentivize getting healthcare professionals to work in underserved areas by offering loan forgiveness and support programs in order to get them to come to the communities. Another priority is ensuring mental health and addiction services, like I said earlier, that they're available and affordable. These are critical needs in our community, and I'll advocate for integrating mental health into primary care to make it more accessible for people. There's no reason that those two things should be separated from each other. Again, improving infrastructure, supporting healthcare workers, expanding telehealth. I've been endorsed by the Oregon Federation of Nurses and Healthcare Practitioners for my work with them in the past in healthcare.
Thank you. And healthcare.
So, as many of you know in the room, my wife is a physician here in Dallas, and so I hear healthcare a lot in the household. And when it comes to billing, it comes to compliance work and everything like that. So, there are hundreds of millions of dollars that are being spent for non-healthcare related items that come out of OHA, and we got to rein those in. They don't need to be spent on policy issues when it comes to providing air conditioners or when it comes to environmental concerns. Healthcare needs to go to the healthcare community, not to these other projects. And we need to cut the burden on the doctors. And when it comes to staffing, when it comes to cutting the mandates in which they have to sit there and work outside of their practice and try to figure out the books and get the billing in. The other part is we have to invest in our rural infrastructure and our rural clinics, and that means allowing incentives, tax credits for our doctors and healthcare providers to allow them to work there and live there. That is a big, it's not incentivized anymore, but we need to keep that incentive there, provide those tax credits. And so the other part of that is we have to streamline the licensure process, because licensing, people coming from out of state to want to work here, they can't do it. It takes up to 6 to 8 months to get their license. So we have to figure that out. But the other part of that is we have to have the Pharmacy Benefit Management Program, PBMs. You know, we have to standardize those reimbursements, because our smaller pharmacies are losing and closing, and we want to make sure people can live and see where they're at, and I'm getting that, and get the quality pharmaceuticals that they need for their health care.
All right, thank you. All right, let's go to next to, so many fun questions here to ask. I'm really interested in this one, bipartisan problem solving, and it's written this way. Both of you have experience in state government. In your experience, what's the most effective way to build bipartisan consensus and solve problems? And can you give an example where you reached across the aisle and maybe made something happen?
So it's about relationships. Kate Lieber, the senator, the majority leader, and I worked together when she was a deputy district attorney. And we joke around a lot. People don't know how to take us when we joke around. Dan Rayfield, Speaker of the House, joke around a lot. And it's about relationships. But what I have done is I've used my bipartisan work to get reform on Measure 110. There was people that didn't want to be at the table. I worked across the aisle to get drugs recriminalized. It's a step, but we need more to be done with that. We did a housing package I talked about where my colleagues didn't want to be a part of that, but we got them to come along and did that. And then lastly is campaign finance reform. Campaign finance reform, within 2 weeks in a short session, which was 30 days, they came to me and said, do you believe we can get this done? And I looked at the time, Leader Fahey, and said, this is going to be the most consequential piece of legislation that we will have our names on, and we need to get this across the aisle. And we did, and I worked in a bipartisan manner doing that as leader. Before that, I worked with Representative Dexter, who's now running for Congress, another housing package, because I had relationships. There's no surprises, and we have the ability to talk and have conversations. All those things said, I have a proven track record of what bipartisanship looks like.
Thank you.
Great, thanks. I have dinner every night with my mother-in-law, who is a Trump supporter. She lives across the street. We don't agree on everything, or very much, but we always find common ground on what's best for our community. And that's how I approach my work, by listening, avoiding inflammatory language, and finding shared values. I avoid getting caught up in divisive language. In my experience, the labels and rhetoric don't help when it comes to real problems like wildfires and healthcare access. The key to building bipartisan consensus is focusing on the issues that directly affect us and impact our lives, like jobs, healthcare, responding to wildfires, not on divisive political language. As a rural Democrat, I know that when a storm hits, nobody's checking to see what party you belong to. And I was saying to someone the other day, to use a proverb from my home, when the cows get out, nobody's checking to see if you're a Democrat or Republican, you just go fix the fence. And so that's what and in my time serving as a legislative aide, there were many, many people who I helped get gun licenses and water rights issues and hunting issues and DMV issues, and their party did not matter. It mattered that we solved the problem.
Thank you. All right. I want to give you the same chance as I gave the other one because I think it's fun. Answer the question that you wish I'd asked.
Oh, okay. I wish you'd ask where I'm going. And when I win this race, I will be, I intend very much so to serve on the healthcare committee. There are some great individuals who serve on that committee now who are doctors, nurses, healthcare practitioners. But I don't think that there's been somebody at the table who has been on the table, who has had a brain tumor, who has been through the gauntlet, who knows what medical debt looks like, who knows what happens after that, who knows how to deal with insurance companies. And so that's where I'm headed. That's what I want to do for this district, is make sure that we are paying attention, that we are taking care of our people, that healthcare is accessible, and that someone's voice is there at the table.
Thank you. And the same to you.
Well, for me, I think I'll go with what Senator-elect Nash said. It was like, why are you running? And it's about wanting to help people and be a problem solver. If you hadn't seen, there's a video out. My dad passed away last Monday. And so that being said, he raised me, be a problem solver, go fix problems, be respectful. And when I retired, I knew I was done chasing bad guys over fences because I was a little bit old and things didn't quite heal quite correctly on those times. So that said, we got involved in politics, and that has propelled me to the ability to sit at the table with 5 people, the table of 5, with the governor, the Senate president, Speaker of the House, Senate minority leader, and myself. We get to sit and be problem solvers for the state of Oregon, not just for the district, but for the state of Oregon. And there is a great responsibility in being very humbled in doing that. I want to continue that service because I have led a life of service from my time in the military as a police officer to now. And I'm going to win this race. Thank you.
Thank you both. Appreciate it. Thank you. Give them a nice round of applause. see who's up next. Oh, it says Measure 117. So we have Lisa Gamby and Gabriel Shepard. Are you going to explain how this works for all of us? Thank you. I'll give you a chance each to introduce yourself with an interesting opening statement. You grabbed it first, so you're up, Lisa.
All right. Hi, that way I can see everybody. I'm Lisa Gamby. I'm your Wasco County Clerk. I've been your clerk for 9.5 years. My term ends January 6th, right? And I gotta say, it'll be nice to have a little bit of rest from elections and the craziness of elections. So I'm here to talk to you about my concerns tonight with Measure 117, which is about ranked choice voting. And I'm talking about it from the mechanics of elections, because that's what our office focuses on. We're not about the politics of elections. We're about the mechanics and keeping it safe and transparent.
All right.
Hello, I guess we're standing. Hi, my name is Gabe Shepard. I'm a Corvallis City Councilor, soon to be Benton County Commissioner. I'm here today to talk about Measure 117, about why I'm going to mention why I personally support it. Corvallis is the first city in the state to adopt ranked choice voting, following Benton County, which is the first county in the state to have ranked choice voting for county elections. So I will be talking about that.
Okay, all right. We'll keep it with you then, because we're going to go back and forth. So, first question, how does that silly thing work? Can you explain it all in 1 minute flat?
1 minute flat, I'll do my best. So, ranked choice voting, essentially, you rank your candidates in order of preference. That's the simplest part of it. So, you look at your ballot. Just looking at the county commissioner's race back in May here in Wasco County, there were 5 candidates. You would rank them in order of preference, who you like the most, who you like second most, et cetera, down the line. Then, if no candidate reaches 50% of the vote, which happened here, that,
Here, I brought a handy visual.
Yes,
in
I
case
have a
you
whole
can see.
PowerPoint, but we can't connect it, but yes. The candidate who gets the fewest amount of votes would be eliminated from the contest, and the votes that went to them, those votes would go to the person that they chose second. So if you liked person A the most, and person A got eliminated, well, now your vote goes to your second favorite candidate. And that process repeats until someone gets above 50% of the vote, ideally creating a consensus candidate that the community agrees to, and that someone who has the support of at least a majority of their community.
Thank you. That was well done. All right, Lisa, your response to that. Are there any corrections or additions to what he just said?
Okay, so here's one thing to know about ranked choice voting. To run the rounds correctly, to redistribute those votes, you have to have all of the votes. So right now, I have my little pool. I'm Wasco County, right? And those votes come in, and I just add them to my pool, and I count them up, and I post my results, and those results, that pool of ballots gets aggregated at the state level. This measure says it's for state and federal contests, except Oregon senators and representatives, which is a little confusing, right? But so now it's not just our votes. If it is a contest at the state level, that pool of ballots is now the entire state of Oregon. It's not Wasco County that I tabulate and can say to you, I can look you directly in the eye and say, I know exactly how many ballots got tallied and what that vote is. Now those votes are going to a third-party entity at the state level to be tabulated. So that's what I would add. The pool goes from Wasco County to the entire state of Oregon.
Thank you.
And it's not us doing it anymore.
All righty. Okay, campaign impact and representation. It's often cited as a system that encourages candidates to appeal to a broader base and reduces negative campaigning. How would this voting system change the dynamics of campaigns and improve voter representation in Oregon?
So I'm going to pass this over because, as I've mentioned, I'm about the mechanics of elections, not the politics. So we're not saying that ranked choice voting isn't maybe the next best thing to sliced bread. We're saying that there's significant impacts to the mechanics of elections, the transparency, and the security. So I'll let you talk about that part.
Thanks. So like I said, Corvallis is the first city in the state to adopt ranked choice voting. We elected our mayor by ranked choice voting in 2022, the first mayor in the state. That mayor would have won his election in the first round by about 5 percentage points, 700 votes in a city of 60,000. So a good lead. But after ranked choice voting and the last candidate was eliminated, he won his seat by only 34 votes. That was about 0.5% of 0.5%. To show you that there was the vote and the beliefs of our city were a lot closer together than your first round would imagine. We had also had 3 candidates in this race for mayor, and it was one of the least contentious races I've ever seen. There was no negative ads. All of these candidates were promoting themselves and asking, if you're not going to rank me first, I hope I can earn your second choice vote. Because they all knew that they couldn't just win by activating their personal base and getting their base out to edge over everybody else. They had to win a consensus of their community, over 50%, in order to be elected. So there was no bashing of each other's candidates or each other's base or calling names. It was a policy issue and policy-focused debate.
Okay, all right. How about cost and complexity? We'll pass that over.
Okay, so complexity obviously is, well, here, this is Multnomah County's ballot. They have their first city of Portland ranked choice voting. And as you can see, there's mayor on the front, and then there is Councilor District 4. There are 34 candidates on this contest, and you can rank up to 6 of them. So this is part of the problem, is that it takes up a lot of space on a ballot and it's confusing, or it can be confusing if you have a mix of ranked choice and then non-ranked choice. I think what cracks me up is they have a ranked choice vote for 2 when there's only 1 candidate on the ballot for the race down here that you can't really see. So a lot more paper, a lot more real estate, a lot more security concerns, because when your ballot comes back to us right now, it is a 1-to-1 match between your ballot and the envelope that you signed, that we signature verify, and we know if there's 1 ballot in there, we can take it. But if you send us 2 ballots back, because let's say Charles and Deborah decided, hey, honey, let's save on that postage and put both our ballots in the same envelope. They both just lost their votes, right? It doesn't work that way. You can't have two ballots in the same envelope.
Okay, we've got to cut you off there, sorry.
Yeah.
We'll get
No,
back
good.
to you. All right, go ahead.
Yeah. Well, Measure 117 would not implement the ranked choice voting the same way that the city of Portland has implemented it. They are electing multiple candidates on 1 ballot, so that is confusing. I have thoughts about how Portland chose to do their own thing, but that's Portland, right? In Benton County, we don't have ranked choice voting for races that have only 2 people in it, because that doesn't make sense, right? If it's just 2 people, you choose 1. So the cost and complexity, it is gonna cost money to implement it, and there is no funding as a part of the measure. But the state is the one who put the measure on the ballot, and the state better pony up if they expect us to, and our clerks to implement it across the state. So to whomever is our next state representative who is in this room and our next state senator over here, this is the type of thing that we don't want an unfunded mandate. If the people of Oregon vote this in, and I personally hope they do, then I expect the state to give us the money and support our clerks in the implementation of it.
Okay. And I think we'll ask about voter education here, and we'll start with Lisa.
Actually,
Oh, you
you
want
should
me
go
to?
first, because
Okay.
Benton County had to do a lot of education.
Yeah, Benton County has a lot of voter education about this. It's actually really great and fun stuff. It's Better Benton Ballot. I didn't choose the alliteration, it's hard to say. BetterBentonBallot.com or .org, both of them will take you there. And you can practice ranked choice voting, vote for your next county commissioner. They're all cute little animals, and you can rank them. It'll teach you how to use a ranked choice ballot. In the voters pamphlet, next to every ranked choice voting race, there is a column that explains how ranked choice voting works here. It becomes second nature. People understand that I like this first, second, and third. It is not that hard to, from a voter's perspective, to understand how ranked choice voting works. And so there's a lot of good education that can go in there. City of Corvallis does education. Benton County does education. You can look up in the voters pamphlet, there's a measure in favor that I helped write. Actually, I wrote it while I was on the plane. And there's the link in there to learn how to cast your ballot under ranked choice voting. It's super easy and simple.
Okay, go ahead, Lisa.
Yeah, so I'll just say with single plurality voting, which is what we have now, you know, we have a little graphic that we put on the ballot for you that says you made a mistake, you crossed through the oval, you crossed through the name, and you make your new choice, right? Pretty easy to understand if you've made a mistake. If you have a ballot like this, what happens if you if you mark the wrong ovals in the wrong column, and now you've put 2 first choice votes, and how do you fix that? How do we do that? It is a fair amount. I think it was $100,000+ maybe that Corvallis spent doing voter education, and that was for a commissioner race with 3 people and a ranked choice voting. If you've got a statewide ballot, all of those statewide contests are allowed in this measure. President and vice president, congressman, attorney general, whatever. It can all be on there. So now you've got a lot of different contests that you're trying to do and trying to help explain to people how that's going to work, much less try to reassure people that it's going to be done right when it comes out of our hands, that's going to take a lot of money. Right now it costs just about $29,000 per election in Wasco County, and Wasco County pays for elections. The state doesn't pay for elections. The cities don't pay for elections. Districts do. So that's more money coming out of your pockets as a taxpayer. And as you mentioned, it's currently an unfunded mandate because they're not required to give us money to do this education, change our software, all of the kind of stuff that goes along with the increased paper costs. So I'm still trying to figure out how I would tell you what to do, because I'm still trying to figure out how I would make sure it would work right.
Okay, great. And if you want to do a final statement, each of you want to go ahead, Lisa, and wrap it up then.
Yeah, I'll just wrap up again by saying from the mechanical perspective of elections, the mechanics, making sure that all of those security measures that we have in place are still in place. It's going to be a ton of work to ensure that that happens. And honestly, the minute that tabulation goes out of our hands at a statewide level for the tabulation, and I would not ever be able to say that I knew exactly how that went, because our office won't be doing it anymore. Any one of you wants to show up in my office tomorrow, we are really good at giving tours and showing chain of custody. I will bore you to death with that. But I can't bore you to death with it about ranked choice voting. And I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, so I just want to say ranked choice voting has been tried and tested and works across the nation. It's been used in Australia for 100 years. It's been used in Maine, in Alaska. So we wouldn't be the first people trying it or testing it. There's a lot of people to reach out for to understand how to make it work, how to apply it to our communities. I really think that it would be beneficial for the state of our nation, the state of our races, having candidates need to be a consensus candidate, win the support of a majority of the community and not just a plurality, which is, I think, something that is so important in our races today, having someone who can confidently stay up and say, I have a mandate from the people that elected me here and that put me in this office. And so I would ask for a yes vote. That's my personal opinion, and I'll stick around for a bit. Hopefully I'll be able to stay for the whole thing, and you can talk to me afterwards. Thank you.
All right, thank you both very much. Give them a round of applause. That was nicely done. I will share one little tidbit about Australia. Australia, you are fined if you don't vote. So there are times I'd pay that, but you know, that's a whole different thing. All right, Wasco County Sheriff is up next. So Lane McGill and Mark Scott will get up here.
Go ahead, the microphone's on your side.
Okay, I think
Sir?
we'll each introduce yourself. I'll let him start because most people here know you, Lane.
Okay, so my name is Mark Scott and I'm running for sheriff. I'm a complex and diverse individual. I've grown up in multiple different states. I eventually graduated from North Mesquite High School, which is a suburb of Dallas, Texas. After graduation, I went on to serve a 2-year church mission in French Canada. Upon my return, I decided to return to college, and with $80 in my pocket, I boarded a bus in downtown Dallas and rode 36 hours to a place I had never been before. Knew not a soul. 4 years later, I graduated from Idaho State University with a degree in education. I entered the professional world after that and went into the banking industry. During that time, I worked as a finance manager and as a mortgage lender. In 2010, I reinvented myself and entered the world of law enforcement. I was hired as a reserve officer in a small agency called Jervis Police Department, total of 4 full-time officers. I later started as a full-time deputy in Wasco County in 2012. I remained in Wasco County until I left in 2020 and began working for the Tigard Police Department in May of 2021.
Okay, I'm going to stop you there. We'll get back to that, though. I'll let you finish that later, but I want to make for sure everybody gets a minute at a time. Okay?
First of all, my name is Lane McGill. Thanks for coming tonight. Thanks for the invitation with the Chamber of Commerce. I'm 58 years old. I've lived in Wasco County 54 of my 58 years. Almost 23 of those years I've been in the Wasco County Sheriff's Office, and almost 8.5 years of those as your sheriff. I run 4 departments. I run the Sheriff's Office, I run parole and probation, I run 911, and I also run emergency management. I manage over $10.9 million in budgets every year, and with an accumulated total of approximately 60 individuals. I think it's important that we want to talk about 3 things tonight, at least I do, hopefully through our questions, is there's 3 things that we want to focus on in law enforcement. One is budget, it's a high priority, personnel, and the last one is programs, in that order. So our budgets are very important, and we're going to talk a little bit about personnel tonight, have those conversations and stuff like that. And then the other thing is we want to talk about programs and the benefits that you realize from our organization as your sheriff, and how we implement those programs for public safety and those types of things. So I think that's important that we're going to talk about that tonight.
Very good. Okay. I'm going to let you go ahead back. I'm going to get back to let you finish a little bit more about your biography, because I think we ought to give everybody a chance to hear the rest of that.
Are we standing?
Yeah. You can stand or sit as
okay.
you choose. I
Okay.
mean, I can't stand, so.
Okay,
I have
thank
to
you.
sit.
So during my career as a police officer, I served as a defensive tactics coordinator, an instructor, a field training officer, a reserve coordinator, and union president. I hold an advanced certificate in law enforcement. In addition to my professional career, I'm the husband of a wonderful woman and the father of 8 children. I know a little bit about budgeting. I have provided a lifetime of service to my community as a youth leader and mentor. I am currently a proud youth, middle school, and high school wrestling coach here in the Dalles. I'm a doer and I'm an achiever.
Thank you. That's very good. We'll pass it back to Lane there and start the questioning. I just want to get your full bio out there.
Thank you.
Leadership and accountability. What qualifies you believe are the most important for a sheriff to possess here in Wasco County?
Sorry, I didn't know if you were going to read the second part of the question. So let me start with leadership first. Leadership is, and I'll be very, very brief. My job as sheriff is to hear about the needs of my staff and the constituency that I serve and create solutions to those problems on both sides of the aisle. When it comes to qualities and traits as the sheriff, integrity is my number one thing. Integrity builds trust with our community and the people that we serve through those relationships and stuff. So integrity is my number one priority. The second thing that I want to talk about is just being a good listener. I think a lot of times in my business, being a good listener is really hard to do because there's so much stuff happening. But being a good listener not only allows me to hear what you have to say as citizens, but it also gives me informed information on how we can actually approach and improve public safety in Wasco County. As it relates to accountability, that starts internally. That starts with me right here. And how do we do that? We do that through a myriad of different ways, but I'll touch on the highlights of that, and that comes through policy and procedure. When I first became sheriff, I revamped the entire policy and procedure manual that we have at the sheriff's office. And those policy and procedures, by the way, apply to me as well, directly. And they can be everything from standards of conduct, ethic, so on and so forth, right? I use those policies to hold out all of our individuals accountable. And I also use those policies on how we actually hire people so we can make sure that we are holding them accountable after we hire those individuals.
Okay, that's a good answer for that. And you said same question?
Okay, so leadership and accountability are the cornerstones of a successful sheriff's office or any organization. Leadership isn't easily defined, but one thing's for certain. It's more than a rank or a bar on your sleeve or a resume full of certifications obtained through various attended trainings. Leadership at its core is benevolence, it's humility, it's the ability to listen, and the courage to do what is right, even at great personal cost. It's been said if you treat your subordinates as sons and daughters, they will follow you into the depths of any valley. As part of my commitment to accountability, I will ensure that the Wasco County Sheriff's Office achieves and maintains accreditation through the Oregon Accreditation Alliance. I will raise the bar.
Okay. We'll go next to mental health and crime prevention. How significant is mental health as an issue in Wasco County, and how does it influence crime rates and recidivism? What steps will you take to address these mental health concerns while also enhancing crime prevention strategies in the county?
Is a mental health question, sir?
Yes.
Well, as we all know, mental health is a huge problem in our community. It's throughout the state. Mental health is often undiagnosed and self-medicated, and this is exacerbated with the use of illicit drugs. As part of my administration, we will maintain and continue to send our deputies through critical incident training and de-escalation techniques. While doing so, we will also hold offenders accountable for crimes so that the victims and society are duly served. We will, on the other hand, we will also make sure that those individuals who need help will get the help that they need, and that they will be able to be supported and given the treatment that they can become valuable members of society.
Thank you. All right, let's go with, this is interesting, public safety priorities and community trust. What do you see as the most pressing public safety concerns? I just did that
He's
one.
got it.
Let me
I
go-
started.
He started.
I started, you started.
I finished.
This is walking and chewing gum. As you get to be 75, this will happen to you more often.
Hey, I wasn't going to comment.
You should.
So, thank you, Roger, I appreciate it. So, as already been talked about in our community, mental health is a big priority for me, and taking care of that and how it impacts our criminal justice system. But I think it's really important that we add the substance use disorder side of it with alcohol and drugs, that they have to go hand in hand. Let me give you a couple of statistics, because that was part of the question and how it impacts us. Of the individuals arrested 3 or more times, this is NORCOR data, 3 or more times, 54.1% have a mental health condition, and of those, 47.5% have a direct substance use disorder. That's an actual statistic. Here's the other one that should be very, 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 very important here. Individuals that are arrested 4 or more times, 62.7% of those individuals have a mental health condition, and 53.3% of those individuals have substance use disorder. It's a tragic thing in our community. So how am I doing that? I'm part of the Columbia Gorge Resolution Center. That's part of our solution here in the community. It's a $50 million project that will address mental health, behavioral health, and drug and alcohol addiction. The other thing that we're working on is what we call a law enforcement assisted diversion. It's called LEAD. What it is this new program that we're working with Hood River County Sheriff's Office on, and that program will actually be able to divert individuals before we get them into the criminal justice system. However, the key component to LEAD is, which is really, really exciting, at least from a law enforcement perspective, is if a police officer has to make a physical arrest for somebody that has a drug addiction or commits a crime or anything like that, and they go into the criminal justice system through our jails or our courts, those individuals can be moved over into the LEAD program. And in the LEAD program, it's a lifetime program, and it actually serves that individual for the rest of their lives with peer support support specialists. Thank you.
There you go. All right. Now, we'll ask you that question I started to ask you earlier. Public safety priorities and community trust. What do you see as the most pressing public safety concerns in Wasco County? How would you prioritize them during your term as sheriff? Additionally, what steps will you take to rebuild or strengthen trust between the sheriff's office and community?
Yeah, that's a complex question. So, and I know I could pick more than two, but mental health and substance use disorder, I want to touch on that again. I think that is our number one priority. It's driving our statistical data at Norcor. It's very, very clear. It's causing community issues around our community with our businesses and the individuals that are community livability is really what it comes down to. So that's number one. The second one is legislation against law enforcement. That's bad legislation. We have to look at things like Senate Bill 48, Measure 110. While I can see both sides of that, and I can find ways to meet in the middle on that, they're too extreme and they've damaged our communities from the legalization of drugs and all that sort of stuff. So we have to pay attention and keep our eye on the ball when it comes to bad legislation that directly impacts public safety. Talking about trust, I'm very confident that we have the trust of our community, and a couple of programs that we're involved in is our schools. Our parents come to us on a daily basis sometimes when we're interacting with students in certain instances out of schools and things like that. They're very, very supportive of us. And the other thing that's super important is ongoing community engagement. I think one of the things that I pride myself on, as well as my deputies and stuff, is we're very, very engaged in our community. We actually have an open door policy, and we encourage people to use that.
Thank you. Same question.
Okay, when it comes to public safety, my primary goal is to focus on choking off the supply of drugs that are being transported and distributed into our county. This means cracking down on drug traffickers, networks, holding drug dealers accountable, and it's time that we as law enforcement officers return to fundamentals. Law enforcement officers under my stewardship will be law enforcement officers. We will do cop work. I will take decisive actions to protect our citizens from those who choose to break the law. To achieve the goal of transparency, I'll be using all media platforms and data analytics possible. By utilizing and reporting analytics, I will be able to clearly show where, when, and what crimes are occurring in the community, and what the sheriff's office is doing to combat those crimes. This data-driven approach will give me the insight regarding where I can best allocate funds and develop targeted plans to combat those things. I also plan to launch a program called Saturdays with the Sheriff. This is a monthly program where I'll be spending time in the community, working with patrol deputies, going to calls, conducting traffic stops, talking to citizens, and gaining firsthand knowledge about the concerns and needs of our citizens. By doing this, you will know me and those you serve, and you will know that we care about you. Public safety is a shared responsibility. And by staying connected with the community, we'll create an environment where trust, safety, and security thrive.
All right, thank you. And we'll switch now to, this one is an interesting one. This is nepotism and hiring practices. Concerns have been raised about nepotism and favoritism in law enforcement. How do you plan to ensure hiring and promotions are based solely on merit and qualifications? What policies would you implement to prevent conflicts of interest within the sheriff's office?
Okay, nepotism and favoritism can undermine the integrity of any organization, especially law enforcement. Let's face it, even a perception of a good old boys club is a morale crusher. This mindset and perception has to be eliminated. I will ensure that hiring and promotions are based solely on merit, qualifications, performance, and the highest moral character. To prevent conflicts of interest, I will implement clear policies on hiring, which include transparent selection processes and third-party oversight and promotional decisions. I will also include policies that eliminate any command staff who have personal relationships with applicants from being involved in the promotion process. These policies will develop and foster an environment of fairness to ensure the best candidates are in the best positions. It is important that every deputy and sheriff's office employee knows that they can advance their career based on performance, merit, community involvement, and along with personal and professional growth.
Thank you.
So 8 years ago, I completely revamped the hiring practices for actually these two things, along with a couple other things in that. So because we've done that, in the old way of doing things, it was very opinionated and very subjective to how we hire people for these two reasons that we're talking about. Additionally, on top of that, we've drastically improved our background investigation process. We've hired police psychologists to do that sort of stuff, and it helps eliminate some of these questions that we're talking about when it comes to nepotism and favoritism. What I will say is our hiring practice, one of the key components of this hiring practice is that nobody is hired at the Wasco County Sheriff's Office on solely just the nepotism thing. Everyone is promoted based on performance, and everyone is hired based on performance, period. That's the only way we hire people. We hire men and women that are very professional. We hire men and women of character, high ethical value, and things like that. So, and it's very, very clear. I mean, by us having this hiring standard, we're almost fully staffed, and that'll be the first time in 20 years. And I think the buy-in that we've received from our organizational partners, not only around the community, but internally, has been a very, very powerful part of that. So that's the thing. The conflict of interest, I'd like to address that real quickly. We do have internal policies that absolutely prohibit our conflict of interest, okay? And furthermore, we have a three-layered interview process that goes towards how we interview our people so we can vet these things that we're talking about today.
Okay, I'm going to throw the same question at both of you for the final. I'd like to throw something that you haven't prepared for. The question is, let me ask you, go ahead, Lane, something that you wish I had asked you. You just want to talk about anything for a minute.
I think that the thing that I wish that would have been asked is about my experience. And, you know, well, two things, my experience and why I'm doing this. First, my experience really speaks for itself. I manage, like I said, $10.9 million of budget. We supervise almost 60 people or over 60 people. I've been a part of some pretty major projects or resolutions there. That's a $50 million project. I've raised almost $19 million of that project. Those types of projects that integrated in our community are things that are going to benefit us in the long term and well beyond my time here. Why I'm doing this is just because of that. Is not just because of that, but what I want to do is I want to continue where we're going, and I want to expand on that and develop these programs and projects that we're talking about that actually makes a stronger public safety base for all of you citizens in Wasco County. I think it's really, really important to understand that this is a complex machine, and there's these parts that we're dealing with now, mental health, behavioral health, drug and alcohol addiction, those types of things, along with technology that we're talking about. We didn't get the chance to talk about that, but how we're advancing the organization, not only just now, but into the future. So that's why I'm doing it. I don't do this for me, I do this for you because you guys come and ask me to do the job, and that's what we're doing for you. So I think if I had to answer that, that would be it.
Okay, and same question to you, sir. Feel free.
Okay, well, first of all, it's for those combat fight fans. As you all know, styles make fights. You're looking at two different styles. You're looking at somebody who is working in the office, who's working on projects that are not law enforcement related, and you're looking at another officer who's on the ground, who's involved in the community, and who's focused on three main things. I'm focused on choking off those drug supplies coming into our county, holding dealers accountable. I'm focused on community engagement. I'm going to be doing that through every media platform that I can. I will be implementing Dine with a Deputy. I will be implementing Saturdays with the Sheriff. I also have another program that I'm working on that will be a video newsletter that's published monthly. The last thing that I'm going to be doing, and probably one of the most important things so you can see how we work, is I'm going to be doing a video ride-along program where you can see live interactions with the deputies, sheriff, and citizens, and what we do and how we deal with people.
Thank you. Thank you both very much. Thank you. Give a round of applause. up next, Wasco County Commissioner, Ryan and Jeff.
It's okay.
Kind of funny to see them, yeah, you want to be on the left or the right this time? I don't know.
Can we stay sitting down the whole
All
time?
right,
Are
well-
you okay sitting, or are you gonna stand, you wanna stand?
We'll get an opening statement from you. You guys get ready to go, get everything sorted out, okay?
How about it? Huh? Go ahead.
I guess we could stand for the opening statement.
Yeah, my name's Brian Lauterbach. I grew up here in the Dalles. I graduated from the Dalles and went right into the Army National Guard right after that. After I got out of the Army National Guard, I started my career with the Les Schwab Company, and I moved around as a manager with them for another 16 years. And after that, I bought a tire store in Montana, and I spent 10 years running my own business. And I'm here with my wife, Michelle. She's here, my support team, and we have 5 children, 4 girls and a boy. And yeah, I'm just looking forward to helping out in the county commissioner seat.
Thank you.
Good evening, Jeff Justison. I grew up in Grass Valley out in Sherman County. I went to college at Lynn Benton Community College, graduated from Willamette University in 1990 after a couple of years of bouncing around trying to figure out what I wanted to do when I grew up. I went to work for the Wasco County Juvenile Department. I was a juvenile court counselor there until 2003. In 2003, I moved over to Norcor, where I was the juvenile detention manager for 19 years, retiring from there in 2022. In my spare time, for 30 years, I've been a certified OSAA official in basketball and volleyball, officiating those sports throughout the Mid-Columbia area. I've spent 20 years or more coaching as a volunteer coach in softball and baseball in the area. I served some time on the Little League board when I did that. It may sound like it's a sentence. It was actually a pleasure. I'm married to my wife, Dawn. We raised 2 kids here. When I retired, some people approached me and suggested that I consider this seat when it comes open. And after being retired for a year or a year and a half, I decided that I still had some passion and desire to continue serving the community and being involved with what's going on.
Okay, thank you. And we'll let you do the first question. And surprise, it's about economic diversification. Given the county's reliance on specific revenue streams like the taxes from Google, how do you plan on ensuring long-term economic stability and diversification in Wasco County?
Sure, thanks, Roger. I think there's one idea that's been floated out there that I'm intrigued by and certainly at this point would be supportive of, and that's taking some of the tax abatement funds or all of the tax abatement funds from Google and putting it in some sort of an endowment fund that just put away and not touch for a little while. I realize there's a temptation to spend that money, but to take some of that money and put it away, and then down the road we would have the opportunity to use the interest off that that could go on in theory forever. And would be a legacy that the county could really leave to the future future citizens, to our kids, and have the opportunity to use that for projects and or times when economic times are tight. Also, there's some opportunity with the property on the west side of town that the county has to potentially look at some things that could promote some tourism and attract people in that could then support the local businesses, our motels, our restaurants, that sort of thing. And also just continue the work with the port to attract businesses that provide property taxes.
Okay, thank you.
As a commercial real estate agent here in the Gorge, I've always, it's always been a priority for me to attract businesses to the Dalles, and so I think we should always be looking for diverse ways to bring in economic stability to our county. And that would go with new job creating businesses, ones that will help employ not only high wage earning economies, but also low and middle income economies as well. We should never be reliant on any one specific revenue stream. And I know we've been talking about this money coming in from Google, but we should be looking at long term. How can we get more businesses attracted to the Dalles so we have more business streams poured into our economy?
Okay. All righty, and you get to do the next one. Affordable housing. The availability of affordable housing, growing concern across many communities, certainly here. What initiatives would you support or implement to increase affordable housing options in Wasco County?
Okay, well, Oregon has several affordable housing initiatives, including programs that provide financial assistance, tax credits, housing counseling, and housing vouchers that are available here in our home county. We do have a shortage of affordable housing. It's just, I think everybody knows that in our county. And the county needs, I feel the county needs to be promoting and encouraging developers to build the right housing for the need of affordable housing.
Okay.
I looked at a report that came out in 2023 from the National Association of Counties, and trying to learn a little more about what can be done. And there's really three things that kind of stood out to me. One was identifying infrastructure areas that are kind of roadblocks to new development, doing kind of a roadmap of where those blocks happen, evaluating the permitting and inspection process, evaluating the permitting and inspection processes to improve workflow, and then also identifying opportunities for tax incentives and or policy updates. I really think that those things, again, kind of stood out to me with all the things that were written in there as things that could be done fairly soon to help out. I know some of those things are probably in the works and have been done, but that kind of hit me. Also, I think continuing work with our community partners, the Mid-Columbia Housing Agency, the Columbia Gorge Housing Authority, and Columbia Cascade Housing Corporation.
All right. Okay, where do we go from here? Wildfire preparedness. With increasing risk of wildfires in the region, what strategies do you propose for improving fire prevention and response in Wasco County, particularly for rural and high-risk areas?
Sure, I think I would like to piggyback a little, steal a little from what Mr. Nash talked about earlier, some of the farming practices, the CRP that have led to some of, or at least added to some of the bad fires that we've had recently. But I think I'd like to point out that one of the strategies that I'd like to see get on the ground a little bit is the county actually just hired a wildfire coordinator that's under the planning director in the planning department, and their job is to provide some technical research and compile some data that can help the county with long-term planning, to do some education countywide for everybody on adaptation and prevention, and to evaluate the natural hazard plan and evaluate the implementation methods that are going on. So rather than reinventing the wheel, I'd like to see them get their feet on the ground and work on some things to maybe advise policy within the county.
Yeah, first I would like to give kudos to our fire department, Forest Service, and wildfire prevention services for doing such a great job of communicating what it takes to defuel properties and in our county. And they have gotten that information out to the public. It'd be good to explore, I think it'd be good to explore ways to ramp up that awareness to private property owners and how they can take ownership of their own properties in this area. I'm thankful for the farmers and ranchers that have prepared and helped with wildfires and have already been doing this for years. I think including them in our strategies going forward will be important to implement fire prevention practices. So.
Okay. All right, I'm going to skip down to this one because I find it fascinating. Again, Lisa said I could do that. Hospital relocation. The potential relocation of the local hospital has been a topic of discussion in the community. What's your stance on hospital relocation? How do you believe it would impact access to health care for residents, especially those in more rural parts of Wasco County?
Sure. I was on the Hospital Foundation Board here in Dallas for almost 8 years. And in that amount of time, we spent a lot of those years discussing a new addition to the current hospital. And there was a tower that had been designed and architecturally ready to go and to the existing building. And we just were never, as a community, able to get traction on getting that done. With the new ownership of the hospital, talk of new location, I just haven't heard their interest in that, and it may be a moot point. They might want to just stay where they're at. I also know I was on a Hospital Foundation Board also in Whitefish, Montana in 2007, where I spent about 6 years on that board, where we did build a new hospital, a plane tree driven hospital just like the one we have here. And in that time, we did a survey, a study on having first responders in hospitals too close to railroad tracks and highways for safety reasons, because of perhaps spills or toxic things that would come out of an accident. So we ended up moving our first responders, including the fire department, police department, a mile away from those tracks. And so to get back to my thought on this hospital, I think it's in a great location and it has extra land around it. I think it's, in my opinion, it's a great place to be.
Okay.
Thank you. A little bit of this is going to sound like an echo, not just stealing from Brian by reading his notes, but I think, I know one of the things that's come up is that there was some talk about relocating the hospital down to Kramer Fields. And personally, I'm not entirely in support of that. I'm not saying I never would be, but that it just didn't, in my mind, didn't really work for me. I'd like to see what some of the designs look like for the area they're at, improving that campus. I've driven my father-in-law down to a number of doctor appointments up at the Veterans VA Hospital down in Portland, and I know that there's constant remodeling and that sort of thing being done just on the footprint they're at those places, OHSU, realizing there's more acreage, realizing there's more money and all that, but I'd like to see what they could do locally first.
Okay, we're going to give you the all-in-one question at the end here. So you get to answer anything you want for a minute.
I just think in closing, I'd like to say there's really 4 things I'd like to leave people with. One is that I'm not afraid to admit when I don't know something. I think early on at a town hall, somebody was talking about library things in Maupin, and I just had to admit I didn't know the answer to the question they had, and that I would look it up and be able to tell them next time I saw them. I like people to know that I'm not afraid to make a decision. I've been a basketball referee for 30 years, and I make lots of decisions, and I found that most every decision I make makes about 50% of the people mad. I've worked within the county system. I've managed county budget with my time at Norcor, so I have experience there. And that my strengths, I feel my strengths lie in building relationships, Someone talked about that earlier, but building and maintaining those relationships. I have friends that are on the Sherman County Board of Commissioners. I know people in other places. I've made acquaintances now with people that are at state government, and I think those relationships would go a long way to serve me if elected to this position.
Thank you.
Is this
Your freebie.
is this a final statement?
Yeah.
Okay. So some things, I just want to say why I'm running. And I think, my background's been in running a business, and much like Jeff alluded to, I've worked with budgets, hiring practices, forecasting, my business for the next year. Also, though, which wasn't mentioned, I sat on a school board for 6 years. I've been in these hospital foundation boards. I've been in a lot of community service groups as well. And I think, that it's just prepared me for such a time as this right now to help with our community in another area. So I'm really looking forward to helping our county grow, helping our county continue to budget good, and to help grow an economy here in the Dalles. So,
Thank you both.
County.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Really appreciate it. Give them a hand. Okay, City Councilor, position number 4 with Dan Richardson and Deborah Gomez. All righty, and I would assume that Dan being the gentleman who would say ladies first, so Deborah, if you want to go ahead and introduce yourself first.
I won't take that. Oh. I won't take that personally. Chuck's much better with the microphone than I. So good evening, and thank you very much for this opportunity to be a part of this occasion. I'm Deborah Liddell Gomez, and a little bit of history, which can be boring or not, but I've been a resident in Oregon for over 40 years and lived in the Dalles since 2017. My history in Oregon involves, at age 40, graduating from OHSU School of Dentistry and opening my private practice, started a practice from scratch, and also worked with the Oregon Health Plan at that time. It was just getting started almost. And, well, it had already started. So that was an experience of sharing my professional life and really starting on a path. And today, I own theaters, and I'm a business owner in this community, so I have a stake in what happens, especially in the downtown area, but to represent businesses and people.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Oh,
Yeah,
there were two.
yeah. I know, it always seems to go so quickly, I know. I'll try to keep you guys on time, though. Go ahead, Dan.
Thanks, Roger. Thanks, Deb. I'm Dan Richardson. I've lived in the Dalles for about 41 of my 51 years, and you're going to hear, as you know the drill, you're going to hear like thoughts and opinions from us as Roger fires questions at us. But I do want to just make one point, which is democracy is a team sport, right? So we have a council, and we have a lot of citizens, and if you live in the Dalles, you're a neighbor and you're a constituent, and there's a responsibility you have to have some amount of information and involvement. So there's my cards. If there's something up here I say tonight that you want to comment on, or you think I got wrong or right, or you have questions about, just reach out. We've got 5 counselors. We're all very responsive. So Dan, I've had the honor of serving on city council for the last 4 years. I'm asking for your votes for re-election to serve another 4. And I think you'll find if you attend or watch any of our city council meetings, or if you talk to folks that interact with me, that I'm try to be really diligent and do my homework and show up prepared. I try to, as Sheriff McGill said, really listen to folks and also ask questions at the same time.
Okay,
And,
thank you. That's it.
Call it like I see it, Roger.
Yeah. Nice try.
All
Okay. So we're going to start with the questions now. You get to be first up, and we're going to throw Basalt Commons project at you. The proposed Basalt Commons apartment building major development plan for downtown. In your view, will this project be beneficial for the city's downtown area, and how do you plan to address concerns related to its impact on infrastructure and local businesses? 1 minute, go.
1 minute. Okay, two-part question. In my view, will Basalt Commons be beneficial to the city's downtown? Yes, 100%, slam dunk. I think it's, if there's one thing that would support our neighbors who run small businesses downtown, it's having customers. People living downtown, living a block or 2 or 3 away, will be great for every coffee shop, furniture store, hardware store, restaurant, bookstore, hopefully theater. And so I think that's great. How to address concerns? One is to listen to them and then really think them through. I know people have raised the parking issue, but our recent study shows that we have hundreds of empty parking spaces, and anyone who goes downtown knows you can park pretty much right in front of any business you wish to visit. Or if it's a really busy day, you might park up to a block away. So if there were a couple of hundred people downtown, additional, at Basalt Commons, and parking got a little more used, I think that is a solvable issue.
That's it, thanks.
Thank you.
All right.
Basalt Commons, one of my favorite topics. First of all, I am in favor of developing the needed affordable housing options for the community, whether it's downtown, whether it's outside of downtown, or whether it's reusing buildings in towns for absentee owners. Will the Basalt Commons be beneficial for the downtown as affordable housing remains to be seen. I'm not convinced at this point, but I do not have a crystal ball either, and I hope so. I hope it is successful. Considering the status of the Commodore building reuse project, it will be a challenge for Basalt because the Commodore project did not sustain the test of time as was intended. Local businesses in the immediate area are already affected by the project. Been to several meetings regarding this and the change in variances and requests for variances. And if the city had, I believe if the city had stuck to the original plan and not added more height, changing it to 65 feet, it's rather an intrusive building. It's not architecturally stimulating. But putting all that aside,
Oh, good, we'd have to ask you to put that aside.
okay, I will. I'll file it
I don't always
right
get a
over
good
there.
cue like that, but I appreciate that.
Oh, I have to go first.
Okay, let's throw another one at you. It says, self-improvement. Serving on the city council and public committees require a wide range of skills and the ability to work collaboratively and pronounce things. Are there any personal areas of improvement or challenges you believe could impact your ability to serve effectively, and how do you plan to address them?
Thank you, Roger. Okay, so the obvious one for me is that I do not have government experience or in politics. So that can, to you, that can be either a good thing or a negative thing, a positive or negative. But my challenge in becoming a council member then is rather obvious, and that is to quickly get caught up with all that is in the Dalles with regards to governance. And I know that there is a class that I would be taking if elected, and I certainly hope I am. And that there's a learning curve to any new job. The reason I feel I am qualified to even consider this position is that for 12 years I was on board of directors for a federally qualified health center and was the chairperson of the personnel policy and quality assurance of that organization. 12 years on a board, making decisions, not afraid to ask questions, not afraid to give answers. If I don't know the answer, then I'll go find it and make sure that it is known and that you know about it.
Okay, thank you.
Self-improvement.
Yeah.
If you want the unvarnished answer, you should probably ask my wife. If you want if you want me to reflect for a second, I would say, yeah, there are times where I sort of think out loud in the council meetings, and I think it would probably help me to be a little bit more effective and a little bit more effective dealing with my fellow councilors if I got to the point faster sometimes. Sometimes I think out loud and I set out sort of a chain of reasoning. And so maybe skipping to the end sometimes would be helpful.
Okay. All right. Let's see. Well, I'm going to skip down to economic development because I know Lisa's over there smiling at me saying economic development in her head. And so, what measures and policies would you advocate to attract and retain businesses in the Dalles, and how would you support local entrepreneurs?
Great question. So I was elected 4 years ago, and there's a couple of months between election and swearing in. And if you cast your mind back, those were some pretty dark days of COVID. And the city was sitting on a pile of COVID relief money that the feds had sent out. And prior to being sworn in, I'd been talking to a range of people around town, and including businesses under strain. I went to the city and said, we got to push this out. We got to act. We need to do what we can to support our small businesses, and we did. And it was, it's not enough, but we turned around a program to give a little shot in the arm within a month, and that's the kind of, I think, thoughtful and action-oriented approach that I hope I've brought over 4 years. Over the last few years, I've served a long time on urban renewal, which essentially is a board of local governments focused on supporting and assisting entrepreneurs. And we have hired a new economic development director at the city.
Okay. Thank you.
So I feel like we've taken a number of steps, and we'll continue in that direction.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay, what measures, policies would you advocate for to attract retail businesses? Well, I believe in recruiting and drawing people into the Dalles. Number one is a personal touch. I think that when a person or an entity, a company, development comes into town, that probably one of the first people they should meet is the mayor, personally. Sorry, Rich. And feel how close the community is to one another, to introduce these people to the Dalles in a one-on-one situation. The Dalles isn't so large that an added personal touch isn't so far-fetched. Listen to find out what the person or entity's unique needs are, and work with them to find out if this is a fit. I mean, if it's not a fit, it's not a fit. But certainly encourage, we want to use whatever methods we can to encourage businesses and opportunities for businesses to proliferate in the city.
Thank you. Our next question. Nice try. Let's go with city operations. And this will be the next to the last. We'll give you the last question after this. In your opinion, what's the one thing the city currently does you believe could be improved? There's more to the question, but I think that's the heart of it.
Okay, what number is that one, Roger?
There's number
I'm confusing them.
3, city operations.
Oh, thank you. Okay, there we are. They told us we could bring notes, so mine are colorful. And I have a strong sense that possibility should be written more with objective language rather than subjective. Subjective words leave open areas of grayness, and it's not clear for what policies could be. So certain objective terms or words leave the door open, and especially in new development projects. This will increase the protection of the city's original intent in writing the policy. So, objective words. This is it. No, maybe, or if then this kind of thing. We want to keep the doorway narrow so that it is well defined as to what we want to accomplish with that policy, how we do it, and let's do it that way.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
One thing the city does that I think could be improved, traffic enforcement. We do some, but it's not necessarily top priority of our police department. They have emergencies to respond to. One area of focus or emphasis we've had over the last few years has been recruit and retain police officers. It's a challenge for our community, just like it is for every community post-COVID. I'm very pleased, I'm kind of excited about this in talking with Chief, I think I see Chief Worthy back there. Chief, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe today we can say for the first time in 4 years that we have, as of this afternoon, a fully staffed police department. That's great. That's great news. 26 of 26. So, Chief, I'm going to lean on you for a little bit more traffic enforcement in the years to come.
All right. Okay, time for the bonus question here. You get to start and answer anything you think I should have asked you.
So much. I thought for sure you would ask about infrastructure improvement.
You can answer that if you want.
Sure, in 1 minute. The Dalles is an oasis on the edge of a big desert. I've said this before. We have great water supply, great water system, but it's an aging water system. Our water treatment plant was built in 1949, 12 miles of steel main, I think it's 12 miles of steel mains were in the 70s. We have worn the thing out, and it's time to be thinking about rebuilding, reinvesting. We can't just patch it together forever. So that is something that we are working on now, analyzing the scope of that challenge, which will be significant. It's really going to be what some people are calling a generational investment. And if reelected, that will be a top priority, is figuring out how to lay out the path to rebuild our water system for the next 50 or 100 years, and do so without breaking the bank and burdening our neighbors too much.
Thank you. Okay, the question is, how do we engage the community to participate and be aware and involved in city decisions and what the council is doing? Okay, so I have a plan, a possible plan, that each counselor, the city can be divided up into certain areas, and each counselor can be responsible for that community, those so many numbers of blocks, and hold regular meetings within that neighborhood and talk to people, understand what is important, what's important to them in their life and in the city of the Dalles. Excuse me. And then each council person could come back together and we can discuss what we know what they need. What do they need? Do they need a newsletter that actually comes in the mail? Not all people are computer savvy or don't have an interest in even being around a computer. So we need other ways of reaching the community and causing interest and drawing them in so that they are available to be part of the decision-making process.
Thank you. Thank you both very much. Nice round of applause for them, please.
Good job.
Thank you. Good job.
All righty. So where we're going from here, we have two more things to do. One is to do Measure 118. We actually have a video interview that Lisa assures me is very well balanced and takes 7 minutes. And then for the final thing, we have a talk about the Columbia Gorge Community College bond with Darcy Long and Scott Hagee. So if you want to, Maestro, play the interview, please. Bring up our star team, closing out with the big guns here. We're going to talk about the Columbia Gorge Community College bond. We've got Darcy Long from the City of the Dalles and Scott Hagee from Wasco County. Since they're both on, I believe they're both on the same side on this, is that correct?
Yes.
They're both yes votes on it, and they both have reasons for talking about it. So let's just get right in. We know who these people are, or if you don't, you should. So we won't let you introduce yourselves this time. Oh yeah, go ahead, introduce yourselves. Tell you what you
I'm going to do the opening. He's going to do the closing. We'll save you 2 minutes.
All right, I'll turn it over to you.
So, as Roger, oops, yes. As Roger mentioned, I am a city councilor currently. I have been on city council for 8 years, which is part of the reason that I have the knowledge to talk about this as an individual. So just to make clear, I'm not representing city council tonight. If you want to know what city council thinks about this measure, however, we did have a presentation from the college on September 23rd, and you can skip right to that section on our website and watch the video, and most every council member made a comment specifically. And I would also say Scott is not representing the county commissioners. He's representing his own opinions.
All right, should we just answer the questions? Okay.
You go ahead.
So
You
the
don't
first,
need me, you're professionals.
all right, the first question is, what is the purpose of the bond? And so the project kind of falls into what they're going to do is 4 different categories. They're going to beef up campus security and safety, updating a lot of the older buildings. If you've been to the campus, particularly here in the Dalles, there's a lot of older facilities. Modernize the classrooms. A lot of stuff has changed in the world of education these days. And expanding community space to make room and making room for more. So what does that look like? Basically, both campuses will get full security camera coverage and automatic door locking systems. Anyone that's been in the world today, the world is a changed place, for better or worse. I think it's for worse, but we do have to have a lot more security for people and for the students up there. The older buildings also will get a lot of new investments in it. So the older buildings up there don't have a lot of HVAC systems and other things that there's 2 new buildings. The campus in Hood River is pretty much mostly new. There is 1 building in the Dalles that is new. All of the classrooms and the labs will get technology upgrades, which is obviously going to help any student that's taking any class up there. It's going to improve the learning experience, and they're basically and those are for people attending in person and also online. The fastest growing programs at Columbia Gorge Community College are the dual enrollment programs. These are the programs where our kids that are in high school are getting high school credits and also college credits. It allows them to, as anybody that's a parent these days, know how expensive college is. It allows them to get ahead. It saves a lot of money for getting them a degree. The second thing is technology and trade. So basically vocational education in my world. It's going to add a lot to vocational ed, and I'll talk a little bit about that at the end for the Skills Center. So the investment will develop the programs to meet the student demand as well as the needs for our regional economy. These projects align with Columbia Gorge's Community College's long-term mission by promoting equitable access to education, empowering students through learning, and driving inclusive prosperity across the whole district.
The next section is the fiscal impact. What would be the financial impact of this bond on taxpayers, and how has the college planned to ensure accountability and transparency in the use of these funds? So the most important thing about this measure is it does not raise your taxes. The way that happens is because this bond is taking the place of an existing bond that was passed back in 2004. It expires next year. It was a 20-year bond. And this bond is going to hold the line at 27 cents per $1,000 of assessed property value. That's in both the Dalles and Hood River. The average home in Wasco County is assessed at $220,000. So just to give you an idea, that means the average homeowner is paying about $5 per month for everything that the college brings. This new bond will only be 13 years, not 20. Also, if we pass this college bond, if we pass the bond, the college will secure $5.5 million in state matching funds, which makes our investment go further. Another thing is the Residence Hall and Skills Center that was recently built with the help of money from the city and the county. The bond will pay off that higher interest rate bond, and so we'll be saving money on that as well. For accountability, the college is governed by an elected board of education. You've all voted for the people on that board, and it includes a financial and audit subcommittee whose specific responsibility is to oversee integrity and accountability of bond funds. There's also a budget committee made up of board members and members of the public. I've served on that a number of times, and that adds another layer of accountability and transparency. And all of their meetings are open to the public. As a state institution, CGCC is bound by formal processes when it comes to accepting bids for big projects, and its entire budget is published on its website every year. This means that the whole set of competitive and transparent processes to make sure they're putting together the best value for every dollar spent.
All right, then the community benefits. How will the passing of this bond benefit the local community, including potential improvements to facilities, programs, or student services at Columbia Gorge Community College? Bottom line is it's safer and updated facilities let the college improve its educational services for all students regardless of how they choose to attend, whether in person or online or a mix of both. There are so many great companies in the Gorge right now, and they need highly skilled workers. By expanding and improving our tech and trades programs, the college will be able to accept more students and help them find a path towards higher wage jobs closer to home. It's basically a win-win for both students and local businesses. The college will also serves a lot of high school students who are striving to get ahead, and particularly those from rural areas who want to take classes that are unfortunately not offered in their schools, and the college will be able to do that. This is also an investment in our pre-college students. Another part of Columbia Gorge College's, Community College's mission is to be a resource for students of any age. That's any of us here. There's all sorts of opportunities to improve our education and their basic skills to improve their lives. The bond will allow the college to expand on those classes as well.
The next is, how does the bond proposal aim to support workforce development in the region, and what new or enhanced programs might it make possible for students seeking vocational or technical education? So the existing programs that will have room to grow and expand with this bond will be advanced manufacturing, construction, electromechanical technology, aviation maintenance, and healthcare, including medical assisting, EMT, and nursing training. The new programs that are in development are agricultural technology and behavioral health. During a recent trip with a community outreach team for Congressman Bentz, when we were up at the Skills Center, the instructor explained to us how his classes are able to develop functional prototypes for local businesses, such as working down on the port. And he said that money is usually sent offshore, overseas. But because those businesses could have the product produced up at the college, they saved that money and invested that in equipment to develop more products here locally, and they're also hiring the students straight out of these classes. What I also want to say is that it's not just workforce development. This is business and economic development, which you heard mentioned pretty much every candidate asked about tonight. And so I just want to remind you about that. And this is living wage jobs, and it's good for our community.
Okay, and finally, there's a question about what's the long-range vision for Columbia Gorge Community College, and how does this bond play a role in the future growth and sustainability of the college? Columbia Gorge Community College's long-term priorities are threefold. Provide equitable access to high-quality education. 2, improving fairness in learning and improving educational outcomes for all students. And then finally, accelerating economic growth and prosperity for everyone in the community. The college goal is to grow enrollment at about 12% per year, which is a pretty aggressive goal. They will, the way they'll do this is to increase access to higher education that gets every student what they need, whether that's college credits for the high school students, high quality, low cost start to a 4-year college, basic education for adults wanting to get a leg up, or highly technical workforce training that puts students on the path towards living wage careers and serves industries in the Gorge and around the world. So in closing, I just want to say kind of why I support this. I'm a very enthusiastic supporter of this because the city and the county actually put $3.5 million of monies that came from Google into the Skills Center that you've heard a little bit about. And if you have not been to the Skills Center up at the college, it's basically a VOTEC kind of educational. It does high advanced metal education, construction technologies, and a host of other things. And if you go up there, it's the most exciting. The people that are in those programs, the students taking them are amazing. And they're working with businesses all over the Gorge to try to help and expand them. When I was with the port, that was one of the main things. Any business coming to town or any business needing to grow, they need skilled workforce that's able to do that. And the Skills Center has done an amazing job with that, using the Google money. So I think this is basically a very low-cost option, for most people on average $5 a month, $60 a year, that actually does an amazing thing to maintain our community college, to continue doing the amazing work that they do. So I'm a huge supporter of it. And that is it, Roger.
Thank you, thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you. And that's our wind-up for tonight, our general election candidate forum. Thank you to all those who are up front tonight, and all of you stayed for the whole thing. You are this is real democracy in action, folks. Congratulate yourselves. Now, they'll have this up on YouTube by Thursday, so watch for that. If you missed it, tell all your friends. Thank you for coming tonight. Drive home safely. Take care.